What's happening, folks? I'm back with another reaction, back with some more acid techno. We're going back to the Polish label, Sycthe Squadron. I mentioned it before. This is one of my favorite labels. As far as I can tell, it's defunct. I think the last release was like 2017, so I think it's been like half a decade now. So as far as I can tell, it's over, or at least the initial primary run is over. But yeah, it was a label run by, I think, a few different guys. Osmo, one of the artists on the label, and I think his tracks sort of dominate the first couple releases, after which it got more involved with Stay Up Forever and the Liberators and so on, at which point you start to see like more of the London acid scene on the releases. But yeah, it was Osmo, I think Athar, and perhaps one other guy whose name I'm blanking on, but yeah, it started as sort of like a hard techno, kind of like on the edge between hard techno and hard house. Again, first couple releases are kind of in that mode, and then by the time you get to the third one, it becomes more of like an acid techno label proper, again, kind of in the London style, even though it's a Polish label. And I think for a lot of people, maybe the most impressive or incredible track on the whole run of the label is Punk Attitude, the tune we're going to listen to here. Someone had commented on this tune while I think it was in a reaction I did to a different acid techno track. But yeah, bottom line, this is a classic. I know a lot of people you know, really remember and still enjoy this one, despite the fact that I think it was almost a decade ago now. It's on Sycthe Squadron 7. I'll look up the year in a minute because the print is just like stupidly small. Like, look at the technical print at the bottom there. Like, you know, even when I had, you know, fresh, like, you know, 18-year-old eyes, I'm not sure I could have read that. But yeah, this is another tune by Chris and Sterling that I think is just, you know, it's like one of their calling cards. It's one of the tunes that, you know, there was like a 8 to 10 year period where I feel like there was at least 1 or 2 monsters by Chris and Sterling every year. And you know, you think back to like I'm Bored and this one, and oh, whatchamacallit, Acid Wah Wah Wah, and Impact on the other side. They've done a number of remixes. They've done tunes with, like, you know, Tittles and others in the acid techno world, because I'm thinking now of acid techno and the heavy ska. Bottom line, they're just like a crazy dynamic duo. Chris is making a lot of tunes with Sam DFL these days. And I love that partnership, but in some ways, like, I always get super excited for Chris and Sterling when they get together on a track, because it just seems like they were in such a groove for, again, like a decade, just making tunes. And they still make tunes together. You know, that's not to say that they had, like, stopped making tunes. But like I said, Chris is making a lot of tunes with Sam these days, so it feels like it hasn't been quite as prolific in the last couple of years. But again, we're going to listen to one of their all-time classics. Oh, Halloween. I forgot to mention Halloween. That's another absolute banger from Chris and Sterling. So yeah, let's get straight to it. This is a song, or a track, sorry, called Punk Attitude. It is very much what it says. I've said it before, one of the reasons I originally got into acid techno is because when I first discovered it, it just had this punk rock sort of ethos, both in terms of like sort of the like social and cultural and political vibe that I picked up on, but also in terms of the way it's released and produced. It's like this very DIY kind of underground sort of genre and style. So like I said, I had been going to punk rock shows for a couple years before I found techno music and acid techno specifically, and when I did find it, it felt like coming home, even though it was something that I was just discovering for the first time. And then over time, I increasingly discovered, oh wow, a lot of these acid techno producers and DJs are also in the punk world. Either they play in a band, or at least, you know, they're very fond of a lot of punk rock music as well as techno. So yeah, it just, the more and more I got into acid techno, the more and more I saw similarities and sort of common threads between the two genres. So for me, acid techno will always be the punk rock of the electronic world. But let's get to it. This is Sycthe Squadron 7, Chris Liberator and Sterling Moss, Punk Attitude, and I will now look up the year. Oh, you know you fucking love it. Listen to how dirty that intro is. This came out 2010, more than a decade ago, a dozen years ago, which is funny. Like, to me, it's still like the modern era, but it's weird, right? Like, the 90s, like when I first started going to rave parties, first started listening to acid music, and it's sort of the golden period for a lot of people, but like, this track is as far farther away from now than it was from 99, like at the time. Like, weird, right? So it's very much like the middle period, I guess. Just that low kind of pulsing gurgle. Two things. One, that cymbal coming in is very nice, and that like dissonant haze, like electrical haze. Wow. I love it. It gives you a sense of suspense, like you could tell something was coming, and here it is. Like, you took a Subhumans track, mixed it with an acid-techno track, you get something like this. So the low, like, but then there's that higher bubbly layer, right? What are the notes? What are the notes? Like a stabbing layer, like, it's already very textured, is what I'm saying. That little snare roll followed by the smashing cymbal on the other side of the measure break. Brilliant. And the acid is like ratcheting up, riding higher and higher.
Fuck you, the corporation. Fuck you, the brand and everything. Fuck you, the corporations having dictatorial control over society and government. All you need is one guy or girl to stand up and say, fuck this. And everyone goes, voice of a generation, fangirl, thinking now, I've never had the guts to stand up and say it.
The zeitgeist. You're waiting for the guy who correctly captures and articulates the zeitgeist of the moment. Some tracks that like they give off a punk rock attitude, but this is like
I don't care what you think. I'm doing what I want to do. Fuck you.
It's a punk attitude, which is the name of the song, and it sounds in some ways like a punk rock track. Like those moments when the cymbal comes smashing in, forget about it. Get a re-articulation of that same sample, a bit louder, a bit fuller. And then in the final moment, it's going to give you a dead pause.
Fuck you, the corporation. Fuck you, the brand and everything. Fuck you, the corporations having dictatorial control society and government. All you need is one guy or girl to stand up and say, fuck this. And everyone goes, voice of a generation, thank you. I've been thinking that. I never had the guts to stand up and say, fuck this.
Layers of the acid work. There's the kind of guitar style layer. Like high. And it's like they're essentially doubling each other, but the character is so different. Like it doesn't sound like that. Oh my god, this is that one layer. It's like lightning.
I don't care what you think.
I'm doing what I want to do. Fuck you. By the way, that is a measure-breaking moment. What do I mean by that? Those 4 beats that it pauses right there for that is, I don't even think it's like, technically I think it runs more than 4 if you were to keep playing it. But bottom line, it like stops the track, it inserts that sample, and then it starts a new measure on the other side of that. But normally, like, the sample is within the measure framework. But that literally, like, if you have the beats lined up before that pause sample moment, when it restarts on the other side, the measures aren't lined up anymore. You have to, like, wait for that moment and then start your mix. Same kind of, like, heavy, anticipatory vibes we came in with. Gurgling low end. And that lovely dissonant haze. Sample come back or no? I think it just ends. Genuinely up in the air. It does come back. Sort of. It's not like the main, like, full sample. But yeah, I love it. As I said, I think it's one of their calling cards. They've made a number of great tunes. One of the ones I mentioned right at the end when I was sort of listing off some of my favorites, Halloween. I think that might be my favorite by them. I just absolutely love that tune. But that's right up there. I mean, again, it's very special to me, not only because I'm a big fan of Chris and Sterling's work together, but because of someone who originally discovered acid techno after being into punk rock already, and who gravitated toward it more enthusiastically the more I discovered about it, because it had a similarity to punk rock in terms of the ethos and even the people involved and so on. Because of that background for me personally, this is always like a really special tune. And again, there are other acid techno tunes that have like overt connections to punk rock. I already reacted to a track on DDR's Kosh label where it's essentially a remix of the Dead Kennedys' Buzz Bomb, although it also includes like little tidbits of samples from Trust Your Mechanic and Well Paid Scientists. So yeah, there are other tracks in the punk rock world that make their connection, or did I say punk rock? There are other tracks in the acid techno world that make their punk rock connections like clear and explicit. They wear that connection on their sleeve. But this one, I feel like, you know, just because it really, like, it's called Punk Attitude, it has a acid riff that's almost like a guitar riff, like a punk guitar riff. It maybe feels like the punk rock acid techno synthesis more than any other tune. So for that reason alone, I really do love it. Let me know what you think. There was someone who, I'm blanking on the name, I do apologize. But like I said, there was someone who had been talking about this tune recently, and I felt like, you know what, I'm going to go back and react to it. So, like I said, let me know what you think. Other than that, I will see you next time. Peace.